ReviewTechUSA. And everyone I know has said the same. And I do think it's time it becomes publicly known and talked about, because this is something that really needs to be analyzed, because everyone agrees with me on this take. DarkSydePhil is a better person than ReviewTechUSA. He is a better gamer. He is a better YouTuber. He is better all around. I can't think of a single thing that ReviewTechUSA does better than DarkSydePhil. In fact, ReviewTechUSA can't even restream DarkSydePhil and make it entertaining. Like, ReviewTechUSA is so desperate to try and get people to like obsess over Phil as much as he does, right? ReviewTechUSA spends 8 hours a stream every day, like obsessing over DarkSydePhil. You know, like the things he does, the things he says. You know, oh, do you guys remember when Phil jacked off on stream? Like, over and over and over and over again with this nonsense. When, Phil has made it clear that he doesn't want anything to do with RTU because he's a creepy, weirdo, obese basement dweller living in his parents' basement. I think it's the attic, actually. Living in his parents' house. Like, RTU is a shining example as to everything that is wrong with gaming YouTube. Like, worse than DarkSydePhil. Like, DarkSydePhil at least plays the games, DSP at least has, like, I don't know, some funny memes, like, associated with him, like the banana song, like, there's things to like about DSP, right? Realistically, like, DSP is not the worst person in the world. If he, like, got his act together and stopped begging so much, like, people wouldn't have an issue with him. If he didn't spurge out so much about, like, hating, like, great games like Donkey Kong Bonanza and Mario Kart World, nobody would have an issue with him. But objectively speaking, ReviewTechUSA is considerably more irresponsible. Considering the way he handles his finances, considering the way his work ethic, deleting his channel, his petty, endless squabbles with other YouTubers, including side scrollers, 8-Bit Eric, myself, like, I don't even know all the people that, like, Rich has had issues with over the years, right? You can't really keep track of them. Like, at least with DarkSydePhil and Low Tier God, you understand why they don't like each other, because, like, they had, like, some weird, like, crossover lolcow, like parasocial relationship. Like again, there's parasymbiotic relationship. I don't know what to call it, but, like, there's a reason that they hate each other. Like, with RTU, he hates Phil. He makes fun of Phil in the very stereotypically, like, A-loggy way, is that he wants to be seen as being better than Phil. He wants to be seen as if Phil is, like, beneath him, and he thinks he's a bully. He thinks he's, like, 8 years old on the playground. Like, well, I'm 400 pounds, and DarkSydePhil is a normal 8-year-old kid, so I'm just gonna flop all over him. I'm gonna throw, like, my blubber all over him and just strangle him with my body fat. I'm gonna smother him with my skin. And then he's going to say that, like, oh, man, I'm bigger than you, I'm better than you, and I beat you in a fight. Never mind that, like, DarkSydePhil actually does things. Never mind that DarkSydePhil actually, isn't as fat as Rich. Never mind that DSP has, like, real accomplishments, like that, that 4th place win at EVO, which is a genuine accomplishment, which no one can take away from him. Like, what does Rich have? Like, realistically, like, what has Rich ever done, realistically, aside from rift over the internet? He got kicked from Blistered Thumbs because he used an emulator. Like, he makes drama videos complaining about things other YouTubers do. Like, he doesn't play video games. He likes Elden Ring. ReviewTechUSA is one of the most bottom of the barrel, just stereotypical examples of everything wrong with gaming YouTube in this sphere. And it does need to be understood more in the community. It does need to be expressed more in the community that DarkSydePhil is better than ReviewTechUSA because he actually, makes real content. He doesn't spurg out at you about stupid nonsense. He doesn't sit there 8 hours a night like, stoned or drunk or whatever, like just rambling about nonsense. He doesn't like, I don't know, jack off to other YouTubers. You know what I mean? Like Rich does. Like DarkSydePhil doesn't do the gay off thing. He doesn't have his fans like go after other YouTubers. He doesn't try and cause like that much drama. He doesn't like harass other people or try and bully them on live stream the way Rich does. Like Rich is everything wrong with gaming YouTube today, and it does need to be emphasized more in the community that this guy doesn't have the slightest idea as to what's going on in the space because he doesn't play video games. He doesn't know anything about Nintendo. He doesn't know anything about Mario Kart World or like Donkey Kong Bonanza, right? He doesn't like he never even like finished Zelda Breath of the Wild, Like the last Zelda game he finished was A Link to the Past. Like what kind of gamer are you if you're seriously going to sit there and try and tell people that you haven't played a Zelda game since A Link to the Past? That should immediately just have your gamer card revoked right there. That is proof that you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what people are playing. You don't understand just how dynamic and popular Nintendo is in this day and age. You really believe that the Switch 2 is going to fail because it doesn't have an OLED screen. You really think that people are going to shell out like $550 for a Steam Deck OLED even though the Switch 2 has like the Nintendo games that people actually want to buy. ReviewTechUSA is completely out of touch with gamers because in the most simple terms possible, he is not one. ReviewTechUSA is not a gamer. He doesn't play games. He doesn't cover them. He doesn't talk about the consoles or the hardware or anything about that. He is this stereotypical example of the PC gaming neckbeard who believes that simply having bigger numbers on your spec sheet means that your hardware is better. Completely forget. Don't talk about the games. Don't talk about the controllers. Don't talk about the actual experience of playing this stuff. Let's talk specs, bro. Let's talk the resolution, man. Like the simple fact of the matter is, real gamers are perfectly happy playing NES hardware on old like CRTs. I know people like that. I am one. The reality is people don't evaluate games based on how many pixels are on a screen or how high the FPS goes. The reality is people play games based on how good they are. And the simple fact of the matter is ReviewTechUSA does not understand that in the slightest.